I want to bring in Joyce Vance now, former U.S. attorney and MSNBC legal analyst. Joyce, thanks for joining us on this Sunday. I want to read you part of Trump's new statement claiming they took privileged documents. And he writes, it has just been learned that the FBI, in its now famous raid of Mar-a-Lago, took boxes of privileged attorney-client material and also executive privileged material, which they knowingly should not have taken. He goes on to say they immediately should be returned to the location from which they were taken. What are we to make of this new statement? Is it possible that two things can be true at the same time, that information can be classified that needs to return and was privileged?
No, it's just not true. Trump, I sort of like the fact that he's continuing to talk. I bet the people at DOJ do too, because he's going through a shifting array of potential defenses, and as soon as one fails, he's on to something new. It paints a very complete picture of what's happening here. Look, these seizures were authorized by a search warrant signed off on by a federal judge. If there is any sort of taint, then I would expect that those materials would be filtered out and returned. But there's no indication whatsoever that that's the case. And if, in fact, it was true, it's amazing that it's taken the former president almost a week to out with it.
I want to read you part of the letter that Representative Schiff and Maloney sent to DNI yesterday. And they were referencing that Washington Post reporting that the FBI is looking for highly classified documents related to nuclear weapons. So their letter asking for that damage assessment says if this report is true, it is hard to overstate the national security danger that could emanate from the reckless decision to remove and retain this material. Now, Joyce, it's important to know we don't know if material related to nuclear weapons was seized, but as a former U.S. attorney, what could be revealed from this damage assessment that a layman maybe wouldn't immediately understand? Have you come into contact with a lot of these damage assessments over your career?
Well, something that's important to understand is that the intelligence community is very nimble. And so once they learn that there's been a spill of classified information, they're able to take steps in an effort to shore up national security as a result of the spill. And of course, HPSCI and other congressional committees with oversight responsibility are entitled to ask for a damage assessment. What that doesn't mean is that they'll get to see some version of the affidavit, the sworn affidavit accompanying the search warrant DOJ obtained. Those materials are still under file, and they can only be released by the court if the court decides to unseal them. No indication that we're moving there at this point, although some news outlets have made a request for that. But it is well within the DNI's purview to issue some sort of a preliminary threat assessment to help Congress understand what damage has been done, because Congress is charged, of course, with responsibility for legislating, for tweaking laws, for filling new ones, for granting budgetary requests desired to protect the national security. So one suspects that they will get some form of briefing. It will be classified. We will not learn the contents of that risk assessment, at least not at this point.
Okay. And Joyce, NBCnews.com has a really interesting piece about how Trump had a history of taking a cavalier approach to sensitive documents. In fact, former National Security Advisor John Bolton said, quote, it worried people all the time, and went on to say Trump had a habit of grabbing intelligence documents. God knows what he did with it. Is this a troubling pattern?
Well, it's really troubling, and for this reason. You know, let's say that you live in the middle of a family that's a cocaine trafficking organization, and you see Grandma and Grandpa packaging up cocaine for sale every night at the dining room table. And when law enforcement confronts you, you say, it was really troubling. It really worried me. Well, no, that's not how it works. And particularly for John Bolton and others in the White House, when they saw Trump engaging in potentially criminal activity that put the national security at risk, they were obligated to do more than just shake their heads. They had the ability to take measures that would have put security provisions in place to keep Trump from doing what there's now some suggestion that he ultimately did. Of course, Robert Costa at CBS has reporting that suggests that Trump simply walked out of briefings with some of these documents, and that might be the path they took to end up in Mar-a-Lago. However that happened, one thing that's abundantly clear at this point is that there is an abdication of responsibility by the people around the former president to protect the national security. And there will need, very likely, to be congressional legislation to shore up and clarify those lines of responsibility and to tighten up security around presidential records, national records, and classified information.